Hello and welcome to the Novel Creature Network. I'm your host, Montrez, author of the superpowered urban fantasy, Errant, and your upcoming next favorite portal fantasy, Labyrinth Park. And today I am here with the amazing pioneer, trailblazing, um, YA dystopian and fantasy author K.R.S McEntire. Thank you so much for being on the Novel Creature Network with us today and for taking time out of your schedule. We're going to get into it, but you are doing a lot and it's all amazing. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I was telling you a little bit ago that one of my very first author interviews, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, was with you. So I appreciate you offering this platform to authors so much. So yeah.
It's really amazing, being able, you're what I would call a day one. I think we both started around the same time, and then to just see kind of where we both, how we both grown, and just seeing all the amazing things that you have done, since our first interview. You were already amazing and then you just really built on that, and you're definitely one of the pillars in our indie community, especially just bringing in the diverse speculative fiction and just showing everybody some love. So it is truly a privilege to have you back and on our platform here. So we talked a little bit already, kind of how we met, and how we started around the same time. But can you tell us what your author origin story is? Here on the Novel Creature Network, we, I truly believe that our stories, both the ones we write, read, and the ones that we live, have power to encourage and help other people. So what's your story?
I would say, even as a young child, I was an only child, so there wasn't a lot to do in my house. So in my free time, when it was just me and my mom hanging out while my dad was at work sometime, I would be reading, or I would start writing little stories in notebooks that I found around my house and things like that. So I just kind of never lost that interest in just being creative and find different creative outlets. I tried a bunch of things, but writing was kind of the thing that stuck. So when I got into high school, I joined this program called Y-Press that allowed high school students to write articles for the Indianapolis Star, which is a newspaper here in my city. So that was the first time I was like, people can actually write not just for fun, but for a career or things of that nature. So I actually have a background in journalism. I've written for newspapers and things of that nature. I studied journalism in college. And I kind of, there was a point where I just wanted to get back into writing more creatively. So that kind of spurred me when I found this old draft of a story I wrote in high school called Saving Eden. Oh, wow. And it took me a long time to, I read over it. I was like, this doesn't suck quite as bad as all the other random crap I wrote when I was in high school. And then I edited it, changed the endings completely different than that original draft. And then I published it as an adult. And that was kind of I thought I would just be one and done. That would be the only thing I published and I'd be done. But then I kind of just got addicted to it. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to turn this into a sequel. And then I'm like, oh, nope, it's going to be a trilogy. So I'm like, I'm going to do some other things, because I, along the way, met other amazing authors and I really wanted to collaborate with them. So then I started trying to create anthologies and things of that nature with other authors. So that's kind of how I got my start. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think that's something, how sometimes, things just stick with us. We try it and we test it out in different avenues. That's awesome. So journalism was one of the things that you did. Was there anything particular that you were passionate about covering or investigating when you were in journalism?
I always really liked covering youth issues. And I also like to cover I used to be an arts reporter for the paper I worked for. So anything related to the arts, like music festivals or even authors. I did lots of author interviews too, which was always really inspiring. The few times I got to write about books. And I also got to cover cultural things around my city, like the library. And now I actually work for the library. So yeah, that's my full-time job now. I'm the public relations manager for my city's library system. So it's a lot of balancing work and being a mom, because now I'm a mom to 2 boys. and still trying to find time to like pursue like the creative passions that I want to do. So
And
yeah.
guys, when you hear all the stuff that she's been in and that she's doing, you're definitely a hero in the author community, and in the bookish community, really, because you do well and kind of being a bridge to both authors and readers, and kind of helping us both find our people. You help authors find our readers, and you help readers find the books that they're really looking for. That there's just a huge void and gap for it, and so the first thing I want to ask, what do you feel your creative superpower is?
I would say that's a hard one. I really enjoy stories about the underdog. Um, I think that's one of the reasons I really enjoyed the book that I just finished reading. But I feel like a lot of times people love like characters who can do all these amazing things with all these amazing abilities and all this stuff. But like, I honestly like to see the underdog kind of survive. So I want my characters to kind of be relatable to people in a way that no matter what you've been through or where you come from, like you're able to accomplish the things you want to accomplish. So those are the types of stories I like to tell, and I'd also like to read. So yeah.
Definitely. There's something about the underdog that resonates. Like, I feel like if characters are too overpowered or things come too easy, it's just harder to just enjoy the story. It's kind of boring. And so I'm always for the underdog. I love those stories. I read them and I write them too. So definitely, definitely. Now we talked a little bit about your superpower, and I do want to say I think you're being humble too, because I think definitely another one of your superpowers is the fact that you know how to bring people together, over a shared love of reading, over a shared love of books. So I think it's awesome that you're able to bring a community together, not just with reading, but also in the writing. And we're kind of going to touch on both of those coming up. But before we do, we talked about your superpower. What's your kryptonite?
Ooh. I feel like honestly lately, like just the time to have true focus on what I'm doing. Like the way I create, I need like a lot of time in order to just get in the flow of what I'm doing, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So when I have days where like if I were to write today, I'd only be able to write for 30 minutes. That's about the time it takes me to boot up my computer. It's really hard to get into that creative flow. And sometimes if I take too long between the last time I've written, I kind of like honestly have to read the whole thing again in order to get back into the process of telling that story. So the thing I'm working on right now that I'm really excited about is a young adult ghost story. And it's actually an expansion of a story I wrote in an anthology called Grace and Ghosts. But I'm going to turn it into a full length novel. And that process has just been it's been fun, but it's just trying to find time to get into that creative mindset when you're so busy, when you got two kids that are 2 and 1. um,
Yes.
so that's kind of been my thing lately. So that's probably my kryptonite, is just the balance of life and creative outlets. So
And on that, again, I want to give you your flowers because like it is that really resonates because it is hard. As a mom of three, like I've got a 2, a 7, and an 8 who
oh my
like
gosh.
if you just focus on that alone, that's like a whole like job and a calling right there. They keep you busy. And then you've got your daytime job, so I think this really resonates. And I hope that everyone who listens to or views this later is encouraged because, you know, we have life, we have adulting, we have our responsibilities. But when you see all the amazing things that KRS is doing here, I hope that encourages you to let you know that you can do it too.
Even when it's really difficult, you'll find time to do it somehow. So I
Yes.
want to encourage people in that way too, to know that like no matter what obstacles there are, like there's still people who are doing the things, but also know that not everyone is at the same starting point.
Right.
So you can't always look at what someone else is doing and compare yourself to them,
Right.
because some people might not have toddlers or a full-time job that they're balancing with what they're doing, or any other life things you got going on, or responsibilities or health or whatever else it may be. So just don't compare yourself to others.
I hope that when you guys tune in and when you see all these amazing things that our authors are doing, the challenges that they face, and that they're, still able to create and overcome, that you do find inspiration in that. I'm so glad that you're here today and that we're able to connect on some of the things that we're doing. But let's get into it, because again, you've got some meaty things. Like, you've got a healthy backlist of amazing books in so many different types of worlds and styles. So take us on a tour of the worlds you've built.
I'll start with my most recent release, which is called A Dance of Blood and Destiny. This was a really fun book because it's actually a part of a shared world with multiple authors. So it was my first time writing in a shared world. So that was a fun process of world building alongside a whole bunch of other people. The cool thing about the project is it was all the books in the series are standalones, but they're all written by Black female authors, and they all follow a different creature in this fantasy world. So my book is about the Fae. I wrote about the Aziza Fae, which is a type of Fae from African mythology, and it's like upper YA or new adult. It has I feel like it has some cozy vibes. It definitely has those underdog vibes. And it was just a really fun story to play around with after writing a dystopian series, to dig into like a high fantasy type world. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. My first series that I ever wrote, it was the Eden Saga. So it starts with this book right here, Saving Eden. And it is a YA dystopian series that deals with a world that had some warfare, and it also had some people doing experiments on other humans that caused some DNA to mutate. So some people have these like supernatural abilities, and it follows a young girl who basically grew up in isolation her whole life, didn't realize that anything about the world around her. And as you go through the series, time moves forward. So by the last book in the series, it's a completely the next generation of people in that world. So it was kind of fun to tell that story because you can see the way the world changes and improves as the years go by. And yeah, it gives me a little nostalgia factor from all the like dystopian books I liked to read when I was a kid. So
Yes, like I remember reading that, and I think you get a little bit of the Hunger Games feel. You get a little bit more so like of the Divergent feel, but then you also get like the I think little influences of things like X-Men, and you know what I mean. So
yes.
definitely.
I would think I was also influenced too by like that's why it was so hard for me to like understand my genre. Probably because I wrote in high school and I wasn't thinking about genre when I was writing it. But like because I definitely was inspired by some of my favorite books growing up, which also include like middle grade books like Tuck Everlasting, which is a book I read
Love
in
to see
elementary
that.
school, and I just adored it. So I think that's why I named her love interest in that book Jessie, because I was thinking about Jessie Tuck from Tuck Everlasting.
I
But
can
just
totally see that. Yeah.
but I wanted it to have kind of like a more lighter, naturey vibe in a dystopian world. Which the only other thing when I saw this on TV, I was like, oh, that reminds me of my book. But there's a show on Netflix called Sweet Tooth.
Oh yeah.
And like I feel like if I were to compare my book to anything, I'd probably compare it to Sweet Tooth now that that exists and I know what that is. So yeah.
Definitely. And I remember when I think I first reviewed, I said it was like a hopeful dystopian, because it didn't leave you like feeling like all hope was lost and that, humanity was doomed. Like, after you read the saga, it left you kind of hopeful. It did have a lighter element that a lot of those type of books you don't see. And so it is nice to see the emergence of more of that in our literature. But also, let's talk about the fact. Can we touch on a little bit, because you write distinctly for young adults or for teens? They call it YA, but it's for our teenagers, and I think this is important because we see the emergence of new adult, and of course we have books for like our standard adults, but there's a lot of like kind of discourse about the young adult audience, what that is, who it's really for, what to put in it, and we could probably have a whole nother like panel or discussion about this, which I would love to do. But can you talk about what it's like to be a YA author and what that means to you?
I feel like when I was a teenager, books were something I really connected with. Um, just be it a creative outlet, be it a way to understand parts of the world that you haven't yet seen or experienced yet. So as writing, I feel like I really wanted to write for that audience as a way to inspire other teenagers. So that's one of the things that drew me to YA fiction. Um, and I kind of just stuck with it. I read lots of different genres. I'll read like adult, new adult. I'll read like thrillers, but there's something about like young adult speculative fiction that it makes me want to stick there for the most part and write things of that nature. I do feel like as an independent author, it's a little different writing YA because a lot of readers um, of independent books aren't teenagers just due to the access of books. A lot of actual youth and teenagers get their books from things like libraries and bookstores or their school. So I think as a YA independent author, one of the things that I would like to try to do is find ways to build that bridge between independent authors and these traditional places that kind of have blocked out independent authors in some ways, like bookstore, like brick and mortar bookstores or library systems or things of that nature. Like, I would love for there to be some way to get more credibility for independent books because being an independent author, I've read so many independent authors. I know we're out here creating so many amazing things for all age ranges. And there are so many awesome young adult independent books that are out there. So yeah, it's just seeing that. But also, I think to keep in mind too, a large number of YA readers are adults, and that's okay. Like sometimes adults like to read something that might be lighthearted or something that might be more fast paced or something that maybe has a different content level than what they might want to find in an adult book. And that's okay too.
Right.
So yeah.
Definitely. You bring up some really good points. So, guys, if you're looking for somebody who is a champion for the YA genre, you're looking for, or it's not because YA is to me is not a genre; it's more of an audience because you can have YA horror, you can have YA. It's the audience that you're directed to. So, if you're looking for somebody that really wants to write for our teens, that really wants to just, this is it. Like she promotes it, she shares it, just great content, a great grasp on literature, and you're a great representative for somebody who really just kind of wants to point everybody in the right direction of what they're looking for, not just in YA, but beyond. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But for everyone who's watching or listening, it's novel creature question time. Let us know which K.R.S McEntire book you're picking up. She's talked about her Eden saga. So if you're looking for dystopian, she's got you there. She's got some ghostly things going on with Grace and Ghost. And we're also going to talk a little bit, we're going to dive into the world of anthologies because that's not the only thing you've worked on and the only stories that you have to share. The list goes on. And with that, you help to kind of introduce us to other authors as well. So let's talk about your anthologies.
Yeah. So one of the things I really love to do is like create collaborative projects with other authors. I've published 2 anthologies and I'm working on a third.
Mhm.
The first anthology I put together was called Girls of Myth and Magic. And it has a collection of YA, sci-fi, fantasy, and dystopian stories that focus on girl power. So it's really cool to see all the stories that the authors have come together and put in that book. There's some stories about some teenage monster hunters. There's some stories about a robot at the end of the world and a girl who lives with her robot friend. There's a really cool story about this girl who gets kidnapped by her teacher. There's stories about a sea beast, and it's all speculative fiction. It's all a lot of fun. My story in there is called Grace and Ghosts. It's about a girl who, after her mom dies, starts to see the dead. And it was kind of a personal story to write because I wrote it kind of right after my mom passed away, actually. So that's the story I'm actually working on expanding into a full length novel. So yeah.
Wow.
The other anthology I put together is called Kindred Kingdoms. And this one's not YA. It's an adult fantasy anthology that focuses on high fantasy. And the reason for wanting to do that is because I felt like there's more, I'd say more today, representation of diverse voices in like urban fantasy or like romantasy or things like that. But when it comes to high fantasy, I feel like it's harder to find diverse voices. So I wanted to create an anthology that kind of highlights some people who are interested in writing diverse high fantasy novels. But then for what I'm working on now, I definitely wanted to go back to the YA. So I am working on, and I'm doing this one a little bit different. I'm working on an anthology of fairy tale retellings. So I'm super excited about Once Upon a Realm, which is a collaboration between 6 authors. The thing I think makes this anthology stand out is rather than there being short stories, all the stories are under 20,000, but they're all like novel length. So they're a lot longer than the stories in the other anthologies. So you get to spend a lot more time in each world. You really get immersed in the stories a lot more. And all of the authors that are part of this anthology, they all have previously published young adult fiction. So the stories connect to other stories that they've written. So if you find your new favorite author while reading this anthology, you can be like, oh, I want to spend more time in this world. I want to follow up and read more things by this author. You can go ahead and do that. So I'm really excited to work collaboratively with other authors, including Montrez, because she's one of the authors in the anthology, who are also passionate about writing for young adults, and also working together to try to break some of those barriers I talked about earlier when it comes to young adult fiction, working to see if we can work on getting our book into some libraries and some bookstores around the country. So that's one of our goals with this. We're kind of shooting high for it. So we definitely appreciate any support, any shares of the project, and just trying to spread the word about Once Upon a Realm. So
Definitely. And that drops
May 24th. Yeah.
May 24th. So this drops next week, guys. Pick it up. Pick it up. And you can still pre-order. So
24th.
definitely snag that. Also recommend it at your libraries. I think you can request it at bookstores in different spots, indie shops. Please help us spread the word, because as K.R.S McEntire is saying, we want to help kind of bridge the gap and get rid of that void where people are really looking for these books and they may not know where to find them. So with that, I also want to talk about, because you talked a lot about collaboration. You've touched on our Once Upon a Realm, which I do want to circle back for that because well, first of all, I guess I want to share my experience with that. When you came and told me, like, hey, I want to do this project. First of all, like, guys, when she had first did the first couple of anthologies, I had kind of admired from afar. I'm not a short story writer. I tend to be wordy. So I was a little intimidated to kind of like put my hat in for the other anthologies. But one thing you'll see with Miss McIntyre's books here is that the covers are always gorgeous. The content is always going to be good. what you do, it truly reflects. You can see the love and the care and the intention that you put into this. So anybody that's looking for diverse speculative fiction, which you know is what we do here on this platform, you definitely want to get into what she's creating, because like she's not just, you know, there are people out here that are just throwing things together, or they're just, you know, doing whatever, but you're not going to get a half-hearted job with K.R.S McEntire. And so
Thank you.
when she approached me for Once Upon a Realm, I'm like, okay, we're going to get over, you know, this year we're doing things. I'm challenging myself and anyone who's part of the novel creature community. We're not doing things scared. We're not going to let imposter syndrome or anything else talk us out of these amazing opportunities we're creating with courage this year. And so I couldn't say no. Um, and I'm so glad that I didn't, because it's been a really amazing experience. But can we talk about that? So you've been part of a couple of anthologies, but then you've also like organized anthologies. Can you talk about the difference of what it's like to, because you, like you said, you were with Jessica Cage in the big shared world where you guys kind of came together and created like a whole world together.
Yeah.
Um, so, you know, these are all unique experiences. What is it like to be in an anthology? And then what is it like to run one, in case somebody wants to do either?
Yeah, I feel like no matter what anthology you go to, it's going to be a little bit different just with different people you're working with. There's like the traditional anthologies where you'll submit a story and just for approval. That was the first anthology I ever did. Was it was called Slay, and it was published by Mocha Memoirs Press, and it was an anthology of vampire retellings, and it was a lot of fun to be a part of that because it kind of validated. It made me feel validated. I think I published that even before my first book, Saving Eden, came out. And when you self-publish something, you're like, well, this is okay, but like anyone can self-publish something. So I don't know if anyone else would actually approve this. The fact that I got like, it was kind of more of a traditional publishing process with that. As for we got paid by word count versus getting paid on the back end based off of sales. So it kind of gave me a little bit of confidence, like, oh, people want to actually pay for something I've written creatively, which was nice. And that kind of encouraged me to like try to do some more anthologies and things of that nature. And there's a lot of anthologies can be a good way of like meeting other authors, and also just collaborating more and getting your work out to more people who might be part of those other authors' audiences who pick it up because of someone else they follow, or you might help them find someone new, vice versa. So that kind of got me started. I joined this group called Dystopian Inc. It's a Facebook group as well, and they do anthologies, usually like one a year. So it's been a lot of fun doing their anthologies. They have one that's actually fairy tale retellings called Once Upon a Dystopia. They have like one that I was a part of, a dystopian guide to the galaxy. So it's all really just a lot of fun. We recently did a love story one called Love and Other Dangers, and it's all just love stories that take place in dystopian worlds. So if you like dystopian books, definitely check those out. Um, and the process is definitely different for everything that we do. And I'm definitely still learning. Like with this new project that I'm putting out, Once Upon a Ram, I learned about this service called Draft to Digital that can really assist people if they're looking to do a collaborative project, because most self-publishing platforms, if you do a collaborative project, you can only have one account for payment, but with Draft for Digital, you can actually split payment between all the people who are part of the process. So that was really helpful in setting this up so that I'll know that everyone will be able to be paid indefinitely. And yeah, so just learning as you go. And I'm just really excited to see how it all comes together. So
Definitely. Definitely. So yeah, I got to catch up on some of the anthologies because they all look and sound amazing from what I've seen and just from what I've read of your work already. Yeah, guys, get on this.
can I just
Um,
mention one other anthology that I really, really
yes,
love being a part
please.
of? So I need to show you, I need to physically get it off my bookshelf and show you this because it's beautiful. So this is Tales from the Otherworld, and it's a middle grade fantasy anthology. And what I love, love, love about this anthology is every story has a beautiful illustration that goes along with each story that we included in this book. So it's a lot of fun. If you have a middle grade fantasy reader, lots of diverse authors in this book as well. Definitely check out Tales from the Otherworld. So I have to throw that in there.
Okay, you may have to get banned from this show. The way that you have like added so many books to my cart. I mean, I knew that like you had some anthologies under your belt, and I thought I was paying attention, but the way that I need to go and catch up on all this is just ridiculous. I've got at least 4 or 5 anthologies now that I need to pick up. So after we get off of here, I'm gonna be adding books to cart. You guys, go ahead and just pick up all of this. This is all amazing. Not only does she have like our YA fiction here, she's got middle grade too, which is another discussion. Our middle grade, like our younger children need good books too, and there's a drought there. But there are more up and coming works in that. So that's amazing to see an anthology for that, and one that's so beautifully put together. So thank you for sharing that one as well. But yeah, guys, you've got so much, so much good stuff here. It's like a treasure trove. And with that, not only have you like created or been part of all these anthologies and collaborated on that, but you also have your own group as well.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, so I started a group on Facebook called Diverse Books with Magic, and it's just an online community where people who love speculative fiction, be they readers or writers, can all come together and talk about their favorite books. So lately we've been having a book club where we will read a different book every month. This month's book is Lore of the Wilds. I really enjoyed reading it. It's a fae fantasy, so I wanted to pick it up because I wrote a fae fantasy, and I really actually liked it a lot. It's very fast paced, and it definitely is one of those underdog stories. So it was definitely right up my alley. But yeah, the group has some really interesting discussions about different topics regarding speculative fiction. We sometimes have author interviews in the group. We've done like author takeover parties and events like that. We'll have giveaways in the group occasionally. It's also a place where authors can come if they have an arc they are trying to get out and share with other people, to allow people to share their work with other people interested in those type of genres. And all the people behind the group, the admins, are independent fantasy, sci-fi, dystopian authors. So it's a cool place to just meet some new authors and readers. So yeah.
Yes, there's loads of fun. And then too, like if you're just looking for good recommendations too, like you can post in there and people are always like sharing, and it's just a great space to be. So I highly recommend joining that. And with that, can you give us like your top 3 personal reading recs?
I'll try to think of books I've read recently that fall under speculative fiction. So I'm gonna go with Lore of the Wilds because I just read it and I actually really did like it a lot. It's very it had a nice whimsical vibe to it. I like that it was kind of atmospheric to me. Like I felt placed in that setting really well, and that's what I really enjoyed about it. If you're looking for something that's more sci-fi dystopian, a book that I always recommend to people would be the Unwind series by Neil Shusterman. It's about a world that had a second civil war due to abortion rights, and the solution was kind of wild. It was that they decided that when a student turns 16, their body parts can be unwound, and basically harvesting all their organs and implanting them into other people. But it follows these three kids who are on the road to being unwound and the journeys that they go through. And it's very good. Like I like stories. I guess what I liked about it, it's a book that asks a lot of questions without really giving answers. So the book is always making you think about like these deeper questions, but it doesn't really like answer them, and it kind of shows multiple sides of different issues. So I think that's one of the things I really liked about Unwind by Neil Shusterman. So I always recommend that book for people who want YA dystopian, especially people who think that YA books are like shallow or just about a love triangle or things like that. I'm like, no, like some of these books like touch on so many things.
Really do.
And that's one of the things I really liked about that book. Okay. So my third recommendation would be The Weight of Blood by Tiffany Jackson.
Oh boy. Yep.
Oh, you read that? Yeah. So it's another YA book. And I'm super excited because I'm actually going to get to meet the author later this month. She's coming to my library that I work for. So, but that's another book that I feel like is an example of YA books being able to bring about discussion about like so many different really good topics. It's about a biracial girl who is mostly like white presenting, like people think that she's white. And what happens in her high school when people find out she is biracial, and it's basically a Carrie retelling that involves like the first integrated like prom that this high school is putting together. And it's really good. So if you like more like thriller horror type books, but that also brings up like a lot of really good social issues, I would say The Weight of Blood by Tiffany Jackson. Or really anything by Tiffany Jackson, because I've read multiple books by her and I love all of them. So yes.
Definitely. Thank you for those, guys. So if you like these recommendations and you're looking for more, definitely join the Facebook group, Diverse Books with Magic. And check out all of the anthologies and the amazing works that she's already put out there. It's a wonderful, amazing, diverse backlist there. So, how do you prefer, what is the best possible way to celebrate and support you and your work?
I would love for you guys to, in addition to just if you read something by me, letting people know, I'd love to be tagged in videos, sharing the things that I've read that they've enjoyed. I love that. If you want to get a taste for things that I've written, if you go to my website, KRSMcEntire.com, you can actually download a free book there and you'll be added to my mailing list. I have 2 books on there. I have a sample of Saving Eden that you can pick up on my website, or you can download a copy of it's actually an adult fantasy book that I wrote called Alice and the Voodoo Queen.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of an Alice in Wonderland retelling with like voodoo and like magic and all this stuff going on. So it was a lot of fun, and it's like novella length. But you can get both of those for free on my website. And then you'll be signed up to be updated with things I'm working on. And it's just a great way to stay connected with me. Also, just following me on socials. So, yeah.
Definitely. And if you guys are watching, her socials and her website are rolling across the screen here, but they'll also be included in our links for the show, for this episode. So please support and share. Check it out. She has just a huge, wonderful, amazing backlist of books. Some more upcoming things are Once Upon a Realm, which is coming May 24th, next week. So please get on that. We would love to hit like #1 on best-selling list. We would love for you to share, support, and just dive into all the worlds that we've got there. Now, can we touch on that real quick? What is your fairy tale that you are retelling?
So I am retelling Little Red Riding Hood. So my story is inspired by Little Red Riding Hood. And it's about a girl who basically she has a mutation that causes her skin to change in a world where having any type of difference in the way you physically look or physical appearance can cost you your life. And it also follows a guy who has the ability to stop hearts with his touch. And they kind of come together, and what happens when people find out about their abilities. So yeah.
All right, so we've got that underdog in there. We've got like a little dystopian flair in there.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
you can't go wrong with a Little Red Riding Hood retelling. So definitely check it out. And there are 5 other stories, one from yours truly as well.
Yeah, talk about. I'll share a little about yours as well.
Oh my gosh. So if you are into cozy kind of contemporary fantasy and you're looking for Peter Pan retelling, that's where you're going to find mine. There's going to be a kind of play off of like the general tropes and kind of the themes. One of the things I found is that like in like the regular Peter Pan, they did a lot of talk in absolutes. And for any of Star Wars fans, you know about those absolutes. It's never good, right? So they always talk about always and never. You find that type of language in there, and so I kind of wanted to play on that and just kind of talk about what it's like when life changes, when it throws punches at you. How it's not a never thing, or things won't always be that way. It's not a state where things will never happen. So learning to be resilient and being courageous enough to follow your dreams. So you've got a shy girl who is scared to step out on a really promising talent that she has, and then you've got a kind of like a Peter Pan cinnamon roll who has a dark past behind a smile. So step into that if you're looking for some sweet romance, some cozy kind of like cafe vibes, and talks about creativity and the arts. But yeah, we've got like a lot of really great stories in there.
Yeah.
So
And I
definitely.
definitely will say I've been in a cozy mood lately. Like I'm loving all the cozy adjacent type fantasy lately. I feel like the real world is just so like crazy. Like if I'm relaxing, I just want something light and fluffy lately. So
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I think I'm in my cozy mood too because actually and then being part of this project, it's really got me excited about maybe stepping into doing shorter projects and maybe doing more anthologies. I've got one that I'm working on that's going to be like a cozy dystopian type thing. So,
oh,
yeah, between reading all the cozy fantasy and then watching Love is Blind, yeah, it's kind of messed with me a little bit. So I've got
yes.
something in the works for that. But I'm just really excited to have you here because, like, you just do so much for our community, and you've put out so much great work. So it was really a privilege to be part of the Once Upon a Realm, and to like you just made it such a like stress-free process. Like
Oh,
if there was
thanks.
any stress, it was on my on my end.
Oh,
So I do want to say thank you for allowing me to be on that. And the other authors that we have are just really amazing and talented. So thank you for putting that together. Just phenomenal. Like I love everything you're doing. Guys, get on all the stuff. Follow her on all the socials. Just go ahead and splurge on all the anthologies and books she's got. Um, but with that, like, could you leave us with a bit of blurred inspiration? Just something for our readers, our dreamers, and our fellow creatives to take with us.
I'll just say that don't allow anyone or yourself to limit yourself. If there's something you want to do, like I said earlier, you can find a way to do it, no matter what that may be. So, yeah, just if you don't know the way to do it, definitely I would say find people who do. Sometimes finding community of people to encourage you and to inspire you and to push you forward is what it takes for something to get from an idea in your head to something that's actually realized in your life. So I would just say be around people who speak life into you and encourage you, and remember to also do the same for yourself.
That's beautiful. And guys, so if you don't know where to go or where to find the people, just hop over to the Facebook group. hop over to Diverse Books with Magic. Follow K.R.S McEntire. You will be inspired. And tune into the Novel Creature Network. We keep the inspiration coming. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and tune in. Please share and spread the word about all the goodness that we talked about today and beyond. Again, it's been such a pleasure to have you here on the show, to be able to sit and talk with you. I'm really excited about everything you've got going on, like our anthology and beyond. I can't wait to see what else you've got coming. And you're always welcome back here. We've got to have that talk on the YA.
Yes. We need to do a little YA panel because I think that'll be such a great topic. Like the state of YA or the state of indie YA too.
Definitely.
And just it's a great topic.
So guys, if you would like to see that too, show us some love and let us know, and we'll get that together. But thank you so much for tuning in to the Novel